now.
Okay.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm Cari from Kenny Brown Performance, and this is Brad from Kenny Brown Performance. Imagine that. And you are on Cars and Coffee with Kenny Brown Show, and we're happy to have you today. And we have a very, very fun audience. Not audience, I'm sorry. We have a fun audience.
Yes, we have a fun guest too, Cari.
That's what I meant to say. We have a very fun guest, very good friend of ours, been in the industry forever. I won't introduce him right now because he's going to be on later in the show. Mark Houlahan is with us. He's a longtime journalist, and he'll be telling you some stories about what he's doing. We also are going to talk about the K-Link a little bit. We have a K-Link workshop coming up on August 20th at 7 p.m. It's a Tuesday night, so we'd love for you to sign up for that. It's Kenny's innovative new rear suspension module, and it is kicking butt. People are saving up to 11 seconds per lap. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. Also, Kenny is going to share a little bit by popular demand. We have how to choose the right gear ratio is what he's going to talk about today. Let's see who's in the audience right now. We'll wait for a few more people to join us.
Well, we have Rory. He was the first one to chime in, and we have Fred Fancher.
Yay. That's awesome. And we'll have a few more people. Let's say hello to us. And we are simulcasting live on both Kenny Brown Performance page, the Kenny Brown Speed Therapy Society group. If you haven't joined that, you may want to. And also live on Kenny's YouTube channel, Kenny Brown Performance. So we have people all over chiming in with us. So anyway, Brad, let's get started.
We have to do a couple housekeeping things.
Okay, sure.
It looks like Jay Myers just joined us from Watkins Glen. And for the folks that are viewing on Facebook, either on our primary Facebook page or on the group page, please give us a big thumbs up and a like, or you can even give us one of those little heart-shaped wrenches if you want. If you're viewing us on YouTube, be sure to like the video. That's the little thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page if you're not already. And when you click subscribe, next to it, there's a little bell. And if you click on the bell, you can get notified so that every time we go live, or if we post up a new tech video or anything like that, then you obviously will get notified so you can be one of the first to view it and, of course, like it. Okay, so we got that out of the way. And did you want to do a tech video? We have a tech video from Kenny. So this video is, and this is fitting for this week because I've had this question 3 or 4 times at least, but it's how to choose the right gear ratio for your Mustang. So this video is about 6 minutes long. I'll go ahead and add it to the stream. And here we go.
This is actually a question from Ben, who's an alumni of the Speed Therapy Academy. And this is a question he actually had to the Academy. I thought it would be good to kind of transfer over for this morning. And Ben was doing a lot of autocross, and he's switching over to some track days, and he's taken a 95 Mustang from a live axle to an IRS, which is going to be a really cool car. And he's got a monster motor in it. Anyway, here's his question. Let's see, for my Mustang, I don't want to mess with swapping gears between tracks, track to street, street to track, street to autocross, etc. The car is 95 with the KV IRS, a 428 Windsor Tremec, a TKO 600, 400 horsepower, 500 pounds of torque. What's the best gear choice? I've been running a 410 for 13 plus years and running this car, and it's fantastic on the street and autocross. But never had it on open track, and that is the plan for next year. So should I stay with a 410 or run the 355 that came with the IRS center section, or go in the middle of 373? Well, here's the thing. My recommendation is, before you overthink this, you have to drive it on track with a 410 and see how it works. Now, I can tell you that when we do gearing for race cars, With them, we've got like for David's car out west, it's got a Ford 9-inch in it, and it's really easy to change gears. I mean, you just pull the axles out, take all the bolts off, pull the entire assembly out, drop a new one in, and it takes about half hour to 45 minutes to do a gear change. But what we're always looking for in racing is in fourth gear, which is the 1-to-1 ratio. In fourth gear, we're always looking for it to be just a tickle under the red line on the longest straightaway. Okay, we'll gear through the rear end ratio so it's at just tickling the red line in fourth gear on the longest straightaway. And that way, if somebody gets a really good run off of the previous corner, and they get to red line, they still have a ways to go. Fifth gear is like 0.8, so it's not that much of a drop. So you maintain momentum. So that's kind of how we gear it. I need to pull up something here. I did a chart for David's AIX car. You can actually go online and find these formulas, but this is for what I'm looking at is the top speed in fourth gear on a Windsor motor, the 6,900 RPM. Now this is a Ford 9-inch, so the number is a little bit different than 8.8. So fourth gear with the 389 is 139, 411 is 132, 429 is 127, and in fifth gear you can see you got a pretty big jump in speed, but you also lose a little bit of mechanical advantage when you go to the 8.8. Now the Windsor with a 6,500 RPM, it's kind of just everything just drops down a little bit. So for the 389, it's 132 in fourth gear. 411 is 125, and then if we're looking at a Coyote in fourth gear, because our track ones we can rev to 7,900, is like 160 in fourth gear with the 389, 152 with the 410, 145 with the 429. So this is kind of how we figured it, and we picked. I can't remember which one we picked, but he was estimating what his top speed would be in the tracks he runs in fourth gear, and we picked the rear end ratio based off of that. Now, I mean, it's pretty simple. You go online and there's formulas. You just plug in the RPM, the tire diameter, gear ratios, and it'll just spit out some numbers. So that's how we kind of do it with race cars. Now, as far as getting back to Ben's, I think you need to start with the 410 and see where you are. If you're on long straightaways, because the Windsor's going to not have as much of a rev limit. I had no idea what the rev limit is. I'm going to say 6,500. If you have to shift from fourth to fifth, he's got a TKO, so hopefully he's got a 0.8 fifth gear. So you have to shift if the long straightaway, you have to shift from fourth to fifth. Then you might want to drop down to 373, or just kind of do some calculations and see, okay, I need to be this much more speed at the end of the straightaway, and then you can just figure out what kind of gear ratio to run. But the very first thing is just try it. I know, like on our Cobra race cars with the Tremec TKO, with the Tremec Magnum XL, we'll run 410s with the Cobras, and that seems to work out really, really well. Now with the 11 to 14 Cobras, we run the 373s, and that works out really well. So it just kind of depends on the tracks that you run on. What are you looking to? You want to get your top speed in fourth gear to kind of sync with the track.
Okay. All right. There we go, Cari.
Well, that was great. Like you said, we always have a lot of questions about how to set the right gear ratio. So that was nice of Kenny to share that with us. I always like to bring a little bit of Taste of Kenny back into the program. We are going to talk about the K-Link momentarily, but look at, we have Antonio Carter with us and Bill Haney. Hello. And from Watkins Glen, it looks like Jay Meyer. Jay is in Watkins Glen, and he has his Kenny Brown Cobra, and he had it in I think a car show yesterday. They have a big deal downtown Watkins Glen during this race weekend, and he was part of it. So that's kind of fun. Fred Francher, I want to thank you for sending the Mustang Times magazine to us. It looks like, if anybody knows, Mustang Times is the MCA's official magazine, and Kenny was in there the last issue. They did a little memorial to him, and then this issue they did a story on his JMS Mustang, one of our JPS, sorry. Yeah.
Johnny Player Special.
Yeah. Do you want to tell a little bit about that, Brad? Do you know anything about that car?
Well, I do a little bit. So Ken was a big fan of the Johnny Player Special Mustang and Formula One car, and he even has some Johnny Player Scotch or whiskey or whatever it is.
Of course he does.
But so he had a dealership that I believe was somewhere in Alabama, maybe, or Georgia.
It was in Kansas City, Kansas.
Okay, yeah, Jackie Jones Ford, I think, was the name of the dealership, and so they commissioned a JPS, or Kenny worked with them on a Johnny Player Special Mustang, and unfortunately, I have not been able to dig up any pictures out of the archives of that car. But man, it was a really cool car. It looked just like the race cars. It was black and had the gold livery on it, so it was pretty cool. That was a one of one car. And I think a friend of ours, Wayne, I'm not sure what his last name is, but he's the current owner of the car. And he brought it to the 25th anniversary celebration that we did at Putnam Park several years ago. And it's always just been a fan favorite. So thank you to Donald Farr for doing a nice little write-up on that. I worked with him, provided some images and some content for that. So I can't wait to see it. I've not been able to see it yet. So I guess when Fred his package arrives, we'll be able to maybe scan it and put it up for the rest of the world to see. But it's in the Mustang Times for those of you who are Mustang Club of America members.
So thank you, Fred. We appreciate that. And it looks like Brian West, you are traveling again. He's saying hello from Lake City, Florida. And I know you don't live down there, so there must be something going on there. If you let us know what you're doing down there. Wayne Jones, yeah, Fred Francher said Wayne Jones is the name of the JPS Mustang owner, and he is a great caretaker. That's what we love. We have so many great caretakers of Kenny Brown cars. So without further ado, Brad, why don't we, you have a little video on the K-Link, is that right?
Yeah, I've got a little video overview, so we can play that so that people can kind of get a good idea of what the K-Link is, what it does. It currently is designed to fit only S197 Mustangs, but we have that product in development for other live axle Mustangs. Yes. So stay tuned for more information on that. But without further ado,
yeah. So let me just mention what we're doing here. So we're going to show this video, and it's kind of promoting that we're having a K-Link workshop, and that will be August 20th. It's a Tuesday evening. It's about a 2-hour workshop. We'll be talking about the K-Link, the geometry, how Kenny designed it. He's had it in R&D for quite a while, and it is in the patent process. We expect the patent any day. I just heard back from them last week, so we should have the patent on it. It's patent pending, and it is a revolutionary new product. Again, as Brad said, it's for an S197 right now, but it can go over to any live axle car. So the next one we're putting it in is the SN95/Fox body Mustang. So we're working on development there. So if you don't own an S197, but you have a Fox or an SN95, it might be wise for you to sit through that. We'll have a registration link in the comments. Brad, you might want to put that in there, and so you can register. So I'll announce that a little bit later. And stay tuned, because we have Mark Houlahan with us. He is a journalist extraordinaire, and if you have been in the Mustang market for a while. You have read some of his articles that he's written. He's been an editor, writer. I'll introduce him later. But anyway, stay tuned for that. Okay, Brad, we are ready to go.
Okay, and I just posted the link for the K-Link workshop. So if anyone wants to register, check the comments and it will be right there. Okay, let me add this to the stream here.
Kenny Brown Performance's new K-Link settles the old Panhard bar versus Watts link debate by providing the lateral location benefits of a Watts link with even more grip than a Panhard bar. The result is quicker turn-in, better mid-corner behavior, and more forward bite after the apex. Kenny Brown's K-Link is an innovative, technically advanced, zero-roll axle control module that offers the absolute ultimate handling in live axle lateral control. The patent-pending Kenny Brown K-Link rear axle control module with its unique asymmetrical Kenny Brown geometry distributes weight on both rear tires all the time for maximum traction by decoupling axle roll from body roll in cornering, helping you get back on the throttle quicker in corners. The Kenny Brown K-Link rear control module provides the benefits of both live axle and independent rear suspension in one module and offers the lowest rear roll center on a live axle. The K-Link adds more grip, higher mid-corner speeds, and higher corner exit speeds. The result is lower lap times at the track and lightning quick turn-in on your favorite twisty road. The K-Link rear axle control module is a simple bolt-on and can be installed with basic hand tools in less than 2 hours. The K-Link is precisely manufactured to fit all S197 Mustangs without drilling, cutting, or welding. The K-Link features heavy-duty lined rod ends, billet aluminum linkage, heavy-duty pivot bushings, and durable gray powder coating. The K-Link bolts to existing provisions on the chassis and axle. The only additional component is the right side axle bracket that is also a 100% bolt-on. Kenny engineers in all the geometry and designs the K-Link for a simple bolt-on application to get you up and running quickly and easily. Since each radius rod has a left-handed threaded end, adjusting the lateral axle position and the roll center height is as easy as turning the rods. Even though lined rod ends and bushings precisely locate the axle, there is no increase in noise, vibration, and harshness over a traditional Panhard bar. The K-Link brings unparalleled grip, control, and traction to your S197 Mustang. The only thing faster than the installation and setup will be your lap times.
Okay, there we go. So that's a little info about the K-Link itself. And for those of you who are wondering about the roll center adjustment, yes, it has adjustable roll center and you can adjust it just about wherever you want. So you can match the front suspension. You can use the roll center change to more or less drive what the front suspension is doing. So it's an infinitely adjustable piece, and it is pretty trick. So once you get it, then before you put it on the car, then we've got some other instructional videos that tell you how to set it up as well. So again, everybody out there who's interested in the K-Link workshop, please click the registration link and be sure to join us. It is 10 days away.
Yes, and if you cannot join us on that Tuesday night, if you are registered, you will get a replay link so you can watch it at your convenience. So I'd recommend doing that. We also have some specials and discounts on the product for signing up for the workshop. So if you're interested, I would definitely sign up or register, and we will see you on Tuesday, September 20th. So that's where we are with that. Our next guest, first of all, there was somebody from Sterling Motors, I think.
Sterling Cars. They left a message in the comments and asked our friend Rory to send them a message. So apparently they're trying to reach out to you. So Rory, if you're still here, check the comments and hook up with the guys at Sterling's Cars, please.
So we are going to have Mark Houlahan on, and remember, put your questions for him in the comments if you have any while he's talking a little bit about what he's doing, and he will answer those. And what else was I going to say? I lost my train, but anyway, we're going to introduce Mark Houlahan. And as you know, Mark Houlahan has been a longtime journalist. He'll let you know how long he's been in the industry. He's been an editor, he's done everything. Photographer, writer, everything Mustang. He is a true Mustang enthusiast. And he has a very interesting past and very interesting in what he's doing right now, and interesting look at life itself. So we are going to introduce him. Mark, without further ado, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we're thrilled to have you on. And I would like to, Brad and I are going to kind of ask you questions back and forth. And first of all, I want to find out a little bit about how did you get started in the Mustang market and writing? Was that always your passion?
Yeah, well, starting with high school, I was the editor of the school paper. I handled photography for the yearbook, that sort of thing, and really enjoyed it. I saw myself maybe starting to write, murder mysteries or something. And my first car was a 1966 Mustang hardtop. My mom bought it for like daily transportation. Not that she didn't like it, but it wasn't, what's the word I'm looking for? Useful enough for her. My parents at the time owned a nursery, a plant nursery, and they did a lot of plant deliveries and things like that. And like this, at the time, it's just your typical used car, like an 18, 20-year-old car. Wasn't conducive to, hauling plants to a customer or something. So they ended up buying a station wagon and said, hey, do you want this Mustang? And we paid $800 for it. I was like, sure. So, I was working at a grocery store, your typical like bag boy job, but I had some money saved up. So I gave him the money for it. And this, vintage Mustang was my first car. So anyone that knows me, they'll tell you if I get into a hobby or get interested in something, I just nosedive into it. So it's like, oh, my dad was a Ford guy. He always had, Lincolns and Crown Vics and whatnot, So it was like, I knew about Ford. I was I wouldn't say I was a diehard Ford guy, but I knew about the company. That's what my dad drove. But I didn't know much about Mustangs at the time. This is, early 80s. So I just started buying magazines and books and just going headfirst into, what Mustangs were and just fell in love with them. So fast forward a little bit. Out of high school, I started working as a mechanic at a Lincoln Mercury dealer, not a Ford dealer, but a Lincoln Mercury dealer through the Ford Asset Program, which is a really great program that they still have today, where if you want to turn wrenches for a living, you have a sponsoring dealership that helps you out and you get an associate's degree. It's a 2-year program. That's what I did. And I was a subscriber to Super Ford magazine. So at the time, I'd have like a copy of Super Ford sitting on top of my toolbox. And it was one of those things we all have our bad days. I was having a bad day, and our zone rep, who was a great friend of mine, had swung by the dealership, and he could see I was, had some ruffled feathers. And he's like, you're better than this. Nothing wrong with turning wrenches for a living, but he could see that, I could do something else. And he asked me, he said, well, what's your passion? What do you really want to do? I picked up the copy of Super Ford off my toolbox, and said, I'd love to do this. I want to write about Fords and Mustangs and photograph them and all that. And he's like, well, what's stopping you? And I couldn't answer him. So this is South Florida. I live down in like the Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood area. And Dobbs Publishing Group, which was the publisher of Super Ford and Mustang Monthly initially, was in Lakeland, Florida, only a 4-hour drive. I literally drove up to Lakeland. I mean, I sent them a cover letter and they're like, we do have a position open. Come interview. So I literally drove up there in my Fox Mustang with my mom. I was like 21, 22, something like that. And drove up and interviewed. And there was basically a tech editor position open. And they weren't sure if it was going to be for Super Ford or for Mustang Monthly. It all depended on, my background. And Earl Davis, the late Earl Davis, who was the tech editor at Super Ford, he was willing to move whichever position needed. And they said, we think you'd be a better fit at Mustang Monthly. You got a vintage Mustang, you really know about them, that sort of thing. So January 6th, 1992, I started at Mustang Monthly magazine as their technical editor. I had naysayers at the dealership. Oh, you'll be back in 6 months, stuff like that. And you try to just ignore that negativity. But my wife, we were just engaged at the time. We weren't even married yet. Packed everything up in a U-Haul, put her car in a car trailer. I remember she drove my Mustang up to Lakeland and I drove the U-Haul and started with the magazine company. And it was just a dream come true. I mean, just I spent nearly 30 years doing this, full time as a career, and it's just, I couldn't ask for a better life. I mean, did I get rich? No, but I got rich with memories. Meeting so many people in the industry, famous people such as Kenny and meeting all the enthusiasts, all the car owners at Atlanta Motor Speedway and Nashville and Charlotte at all the anniversary events. I mean, literally people asking for my autograph. I mean, who would think it, right? So, so I had my Fox Mustang and it was probably, I bought it brand new. So I've had it 32 years now. We did what we called a week to wicked build. It was something that the company started in 2017 where they would build a car in a week, similar to like overhauling. And we ended up using my Fox Mustang for one of those builds in 2019. It got completely rebuilt, fresh, new paint, everything. So the car is beautiful. Probably don't deserve what was done to it, but that was finished 2 weeks after SEMA 2019. And 2 weeks after that, the company announced they were shutting down 22 of the automotive titles. The only brands that would be left would be Hot Rod for your hot rod / car enthusiast, Motor Trend for your new car enthusiast, and I think it's Four Wheeler for like your truck and Jeep off-road guy or gal. And as a team of 4 on the Mustang brands, we decided to take their exit package and left the company. So this happened right around, I think my last day of work was January 24th, 2020. So right at 28 years and a couple of days. And then, of course, COVID hit and the lockdown. And pretty much I spent 2020, sitting around the house, working on my Fox Mustang a little bit. I had since built and restored another 66 Mustang that looks like my old Mustang. So like a tribute car, if you will, and had been sitting. So I started working on that. You just basically didn't want to have idle hands. And late October, Speedway Motors came calling. Speedway Motors is based out of Lincoln, Nebraska. So when you guys were in Omaha, you might have heard them. Lincoln is also where our good friend Doug Killian lives. And they actually reached out to me looking for a copywriter. So my day-to-day now is working at Speedway Motors, doing copy for our product pages, what we call category copy. We have a blog where I write buyer's guides, learning a whole lot about LSs these days, to be honest, but, writing content for our blog and that sort of thing, and also representing the company. I went to SEMA last year. I went to PRI last year, doing some product videos with our partners, that sort of thing. So it's been an interesting ride, and thankfully we have a new Mustang brand that just is on the horizon here. It's been out just about 2 years, called Mustang Hub, and I'm a columnist with that magazine, along with Steve Turner, and Henry De Los Santos, who was the editor of Muscle Mustangs back in the day, is the editor of it, and he's doing an awesome job. It's a great title. Our good friend Wes Dunkel does a lot with them, and it's just it's just great to still see that kind of passion be put into a print magazine. I mean, the internet's great and it's instant, and everyone loves seeing their car, but there's nothing like seeing your car in print.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Brad, if you can you try to stick a link to Mustang Hub, because it's worth subscribing to that. You get a real print magazine in the mail, and it's very high quality, great writers like Mark and Wes. So anyway, it's just wonderful magazine.
Yeah, that's where they debuted the K-Link.
Yes, they did. Yeah, Wes Dunkel wrote an article on the K-Link in there. So if you would like to check that out, you're more than welcome to. I think they have an online and a print magazine. So we'll put the link in the comments area so you can join in on that. But so tell me a little bit more about when did you first meet Kenny?
Well, I first learned about Kenny Brown performance through the advertisements in the magazines I worked in. So, we have, nowadays everything's electronic, but back in the day we had what we called blue lines, and you literally got this stack of magazine pages that had like a blue tone to them. And, it was our last and final gotcha. We proofed everything, including the advertisers, make sure phone numbers were right, that sort of thing. And so that was one of my jobs, besides writing content, was also proofing the whole magazine, which is what I do now for Mustang Hub as well. And so I'm flipping through and I'm seeing these ads, and back in the day there was like Holcomb Motorsport and Dallas Mustang and things like that. And I'm flipping through, and here's Kenny Brown. And I was like, oh, that's pretty sharp looking Fox Mustang in the ad, and suspension pieces, this and that. And at that point, I'd been with the company maybe 6 months. And I think we had done maybe a cold air kit on my car and put gauges in it or something. My car was pretty much stock at the time, and maybe gears too, but that was it. So we got an invite to come drive the latest Kenny Brown products at Putnam Park. So it was myself for Mustang Monthly, Steve Turner for Super Ford magazine at the time. This is before 5.0. Mustang joined the family. And then I believe there was also Jim Camposano and Evan Smith for Muscle Mustangs, which again, we were separate companies or entities at the time. So we flew out to Indy, and I mentioned this on another podcast, but that's when I first met Brad as well. He actually picked us up at the airport in his Fox Mustang. And I was like, hey, got employees that are, driving the product and enjoying it and all that. And we had a great dinner and got to meet him. And I remember there was other journalists from other brands, Motor Trend and Car and Driver and whatnot. So we had to split up into a caravan. And from where we had dinner downtown to Putnam Park is probably, 45 minutes or so. Memory's a little fuzzy these days, but I actually drove out there with Kenny. I got right seat with him. So I got to spend like almost an hour just talking about, cars and his background and that, I'll be honest, at that point, I did not know a whole lot about Kenny. And so learned about, his years with Steve and his son, and then he's got, I want to say, I can't remember what it was we were driving, but it was a Ford and it had a 6-disc CD changer option, either in the trunk or the center console. And he hits the radio and I guess the first disc that came up was ZZ Top. and I'm a huge ZZ Top fan. So I was just like, oh, great choice of music. And we started talking about ZZ Top a little bit. So it was great to have this one-on-one with him, because a lot of times you get, to an event like that and it's a meet and greet, shake a hand, that type of thing. And then you're off driving or doing something and you really don't get that one-on-one time. So I really got to know him very well just in that drive. And then we get out to, the track, and this was only my second time on a road course. Full disclosure, I at the time, I was more of a drag race guy. So I had been to Roebling Road in Savannah, or just outside of Savannah, for an event with Big Rich Tires, driving Legends cars. And if you're not familiar with Legends cars, or if your viewers aren't, they're replicas of like 1940s NASCAR racers, like 2/3 scale, and they run on motorcycle drivetrains, like 1100 cc, inline fours with a sequential gearbox. But they're a single seater because of the size of the vehicle. So we were having Vic Elford, a very, very famous Porsche instructor, as our instructor for that event. And it was like classroom instruction and then stick you in the car and head out. That was fine. But when I actually was with Kenny at his event driving the Outlaw, the Fox Mustangs, he was in the right seat with you. And no, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that right, that type of thing. And getting that true one-on-one in the car with you was just such an eye-opener for me. And that what really turned me on to, road courses and autocrosses and that sort of thing. I mean, I still enjoy a good drag race now and then, but I'll argue with somebody that that a drag racer, it's like you don't know how much fun you can have till you start turning left and right in the car.
So true, so true. I mean, we have converted so many drag racers over to road courses. So, So you're absolutely right. I want to comment one thing. What is on your head there?
You like that?
Yes, I love that, Mark.
That's the one of the earlier Kenny Brown logos. I'll be honest, I don't remember exactly when he gave it to me. I want to say it might have been the 45th anniversary Mustang show. But unfortunately, the shirt got worn out. But being nearly 3 decades in the industry, we do a lot of media roundtables and a lot of events and a lot of like factory tours, that sort of thing. And you're always getting handed a hat. So I've got these like huge Rubbermaid, like 60-quart containers full of hats, hundreds of them. And the thing is, when we started talking earlier in the week about coming on, I was like, oh, I know I don't have a shirt anymore. They just get worn out, with washes and whatnot. I said, but I'm pretty sure I still have a hat, because I'll wear a hat a couple of times and then it goes in the bin and then I get another one. I got probably a half dozen on my dresser right now that are the most recent freebies, And so I started, like a kid in a toy box, just started pulling hats out last night, and I finally found it. I was like, I've got to wear this for the show.
That is great. That is great. I love it. Pull it down a little bit more so we can see the old logo again. Look at that. That was such a sexy logo in its day. Yeah. And then a lot of people started doing that same thing. We were one of the first to come up with that kind of a logo. So I remember that well. I just want to take a break.
Here's a little piece of history. And I think Mark will appreciate that. And Cari, I'm sure you remember this. That logo actually won a silver Addy.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yes, it did. I forgot about that, Brad. Good point. So yeah. Brad's kind of our historian.
I'm not sure the story behind the Addy, but I know it's a pretty prestigious award to win.
Yeah, so that was awesome. Kenny was really excited about that. I'm just going to take a break. If you like what you're hearing here, give us some thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. What I wanted to let you know is in a couple weeks we are going to be having a tech session on tire temps. So we are inviting somebody from Tire Rack to give us a little bit of information on tires and what you can do with that. So just join us in 2 weeks. Again, we're live every other week. On the week that we're not live, we play a encore presentation of a show that Kenny did. So we kind of keep his legacy alive and keep going. Speaking of that, we're building tribute cars. Mark, I don't know if you know this or not, but we're building outlaw tribute cars. We've had a number of people contact us on that. We're also building so that's our Fox body. We're building Cobra tribute, Kenny Brown tribute cars, and we have a S197. We've already got that in the works as well. So, and then S550. So that's kind of how we're honoring Kenny, is we're continuing building his full conversion cars. So it's really fun and it's heartfelt. So that's Brad, very cool. Yeah, it is really cool. Brad, do you have any questions for Mark?
Well, Mark shared some fond memories of times that he spent with Kenny and with Kenny at the racetrack. What I'm wondering is, of all the Kenny Brown Mustangs you covered, saw, drove, do you have any particular favorite one?
That's a tough one. I like kitschy stuff or stuff that's outside the norm. So at first blush, I would say some of the coolest stuff that Kenny did was not Mustang stuff. I love the Marauders, the short wheelbase T-Birds that, Doug had a hand in with him, all that quirky stuff. I was just like, this is really cool. Mustangs are great, but like right now we own a Fusion, EcoBoost Fusion Titanium. It's a great car. And there's some goodies out there for EcoBoost stuff, but it's the wife's daily. And the reason we went with a 4-door was we have a grandson. And, if you ever try to stuff a kid into a car seat in the back of a 2-seater, of any 2-seater, not just a Mustang, it's not fun. If in this day and age, if there was, for one thing, if the Panther platform was still being built, we could do, let's say, a Coyote, supercharged Coyote powered Panther car, a Marauder or Crown Vic, something like that has great handling, great power, great brakes, some subtle changes to the looks, but gives you, that, touring car, if you will, ability with 4 doors, a decent trunk, that sort of thing. Those are some of the cars I was like, that's interesting. That's cool. I could see me driving that. But if we're talking strictly Mustangs, hands down, I gotta say the CSR, the 69 wide body. When I first saw that car, again, it was another anniversary event. I want to say it was the 45th. Because all those events had track events going on at the same time as the static car show, and got down to the race pits area, and there was the car up against a chain link fence with the the trailer and the tent and everything. And as a vintage car guy as well, I just seeing those 69, 70 Mustang looking rear hips and the rear wing design with the sports roof rear glass reminiscence there. I was just blown away. And then I was blown away a second time when he took me for a ride in it. So, it's one of those things where, I'd love to have seen that body kit and program take off, but just the fact that he had the what's the word I'm looking for? Wherewithal to buck the trend and say, way before there were companies doing, S197 Mustangs that look like classic Boss 302s and stuff like that you can buy now. Way before that, he had that wherewithal to meld classic Mustang and the current gen Mustang and make a really, really sharp looking car that just did everything right.
Well, that's interesting because I'm just going to mention this real briefly. I don't think you know about this, Mark, but Kenny has a program that we're going to continue it on is called a Heritage Car Program, and where he is actually taking old 69, 70 Mustang and Camaro body shells and putting it on him brand new, like high performance platforms. So, all new mechanicals, just everything brand new. So he's kind of taken that, the M69 program and moved it down the road. He's done a lot of development on that. And so we're in talks with a number of people on bringing that to racetracks around the country and also building street cars from those. And it's different than what a lot of people are doing out there. But I mean, it's just, if you drive a Kenny Brown Mustang, and then you put, 69, 70 body shell on it. That's what it's like. And we're really excited to be continuing that on. Probably talking a little too early on it, but there are some pictures on our website on that. But enough about that. Brad, do you want to, let's see.
Yeah, I had another question.
Okay, I knew you would.
Yeah, well, everybody knows that Kenny was arguably my greatest teacher, mentor, influencer that I ever had. But I wanted to ask Mark, is there anything that you can think of particularly that you learned from Kenny? What maybe did you learn that left a lasting impression on your mind, whether it was driving or just business or the philosophy of building Mustangs?
Well, I know this is going to sound corny. And this was at one of the driving schools that we programs that we went to that Kenny put on, and I'm just going to say it. When he taught us and said, and we were talking about going off track, he said, "Remember this: if you spin, both feet in." Now, it may for all the track rats out there that might be a given, but at the time, and obviously I can drive a manual transmission, but at the time my Fox Mustang, my daily driver, was an automatic. I bought it with an automatic because living down in South Florida, I didn't want to deal with shifting and all that and the crazy traffic down there. And I didn't have much road race experience or track experience at the time because I was more of a drag racer. And just those few words have lived with me my whole life. Anytime I've been at, right here, I still live in Lakeland, so I'm like an hour and change from Sebring. I've been to Sebring several times for various events. And, even with Ford Performance has rented the track for us to drive cars and whatnot. And, you get behind the wheel and, you don't want to crash some other person's, $100,000 prototype or something. And so you don't go, 9/10, but still, things happen. And it's always been, in the back of my mind, if you overcorrect, something happens, the tail's coming around, put both feet in, clutch and brake, you want to keep that engine running. So I know it sounds corny, but that's just the first time I ever heard that was out of Kenny's mouth, and it stuck with me my whole life.
That's awesome. Yeah, so that's obviously one of the things that that stuck with me as well. And I've spent a little bit of time in the grass, and in most cases I got both feet in, but there were a couple of times where I missed one foot. So,
well, where he told me that it was at Putnam Park, and it was, I don't remember the name of the drill. You might actually, as an instructor, you might know the name of it, but it's 2 lanes that you start accelerating towards, and then one lane gets a green light and one lane gets a red light. And at the last second, you got to get into that lane. And I was doing that with him in the car, and I got into the lane in time and got the car stopped in time. And I did push the clutch pedal in, but I didn't push it in far enough, and it killed the car. So that's when he gave me those famous words.
That is so cool.
That's great.
So
Cari, we have some more questions?
Yeah, I do. We have some questions coming in too. We'll ask those in a few minutes. But Mark, you are such I mean, like we have so many, there's such a nice little group of really experienced people. We've had a couple on like Steve Turner and Camposano and Evan Smith and now you, and there's a few more we're going to be adding, but there's that group of people and they're so experienced in what they do and their knowledge base. Do you have any tips you want to share with anybody, like a photography tips if they're trying to photograph their own car, or any tips you want to offer?
Yeah, in this day and age, everyone's got a cell phone, and admittedly, if you got one of the newer Androids or iPhones, I mean, the cameras in those are really great, and you can do a lot with them. But still, if you're serious about doing some great automotive photography, you definitely need the right gear. You need a single lens reflex, a digital DSLR with various lenses and whatnot. A lot of community colleges do photography courses. There's a lot of great online content, YouTube videos, that sort of thing. But it's really comes down to just practicing and trying different things with the camera, and even with the car and the placement and that sort of thing. Some real basic tips that I always tell people. I have people send me a photo of their car and it's like, will this work for the magazine? And it's, shot at noon with harsh shadows. The wheels aren't turned. There's a garbage can in the background. All these things that if you're not a photographer, that's not in your thought process. It's not in your vision, in your mind. So first off, always shoot with the sun behind you. When you have that sun behind you, you're not going to have, it's like standing and having somebody stand in front of a bright window and you take a picture of them. What happens? Their silhouette is black and you got this overblown bright window. So that's because the sun's in front of you. If you turned around and stood in front of the window and shot inside or inwards in your home, you'd get a better photo. So same with the car, always have the sun behind you. It's also best to shoot early morning or late afternoon, early evening. You want that sun low, just as it's cresting over, the tree line, the mountains, wherever you live, and you're just getting that low sunlight. That's where it'll minimize your shadows and the car will look the best. You can shoot, I've shot cars like on an overcast day. It depends on the color. Again, this comes in with practice and with just trying different things. And always watch the background and the foreground. I've shot some beautiful cars down on the waterfront in some cities that had big rivers going through them, like the Chicago area, that sort of thing. And unfortunately, a lot of those areas, may have vagrants or just a lot of like weekend partying going on. So you'll see a lot of trash, that sort of thing. So there's been times where I'll spend 10 minutes cleaning up the area in front of the car before I photograph it. And as far as behind the car, you always want something that's going to contrast the car. You don't want, shoot a green car on a green hedgerow and it just blends right in. So you want something to contrast it color wise, and watch out for like telephone poles and fire hydrants and that sort of thing. Yes, in this day and age, you can just easily wipe them away in Photoshop, but the less manipulation you have to do, the better. So take your time looking for a good background. And like I said, don't be afraid to try different things. Slightly underexposed, slightly overexposed, depending on the color and the sun, can really make a car pop. And invest in some. You can get some cheap white sheets from like a dollar store, or even make your own reflector. A lot of times you'll have a car that's very well lit, but the grill area, the front of the car, is kind of dark. And if you have an assistant that can hold that reflector up and aim some light into the front of that grill area and lighten it up, all the better. So, but yeah, and you don't have to spend, $5,000 on a R series Canon. I mean, you can start with a nice budget like Canon Rebel or something like that, get a nice basic $600-700, camera and lens setup and start from there, and but you got to practice. You can't just expect to, go out and shoot one car a year and it's gonna knock your socks off. Take your car, go to a Cars and Coffee and shoot other people's cars. People love to have photos of their cars. Don't even try to make money off it at first. Just, hey, can I shoot your car? I'm practicing. Most car owners will dig it. They'll move the car for you, take some photos, get their email address and send them some of the photos for them to use on their social platforms. And it's a great way to practice.
Those are some good tips. One thing I wanted to ask you about photography. I always learned that you should really never photograph a car in the grass because it doesn't look as aggressive as it does on pavement. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, one thing I learned early on, and this was back in Super Ford days. Back in those days, I was on Mustang Monthly as tech editor, so I really didn't shoot a lot of cars then. I did more tech photography, benchtop work, cars on the lift, that sort of thing. And Steve Turner was shooting a lot of features at the time, so he kind of took me under his wing and showed me, the basics. One thing that both Tom Wilson, editor at Super Ford, and Tom Corcoran, editor at Mustang Monthly, both explained to us is cars drive on pavement. They don't drive on grass. Never shoot a car on grass. It just does not do it justice. So even if it's a parking lot, that's got parking lot spaces and lines all through it. If you get down, bring an old blanket with you, throw the blanket on the ground and lay on the ground and shoot the car really low, those parking lot lines disappear. I bring like a little 3-step ladder with me. Get up on that little ladder, or if you got an SUV with like a roof rack or something, get up on top of that and shoot down. People may remember like the shootouts that Super Ford used to do, and we'd have 6 or 8 cars, in front of the Christmas tree drag strip, or the suspension challenges we used to do out in California. And the way we would get those group shots would be getting up high to be able to get all the cars in. So again, it's just, practice, play around, and learn the craft. But yeah, obviously you're at a car show and the car's parked on grass. There's not much you can do about it. But if you're trying to shoot something for placement, an advertisement, a magazine, or commercially, you're trying to sell the photos or something, definitely get the car moved onto asphalt or cement.
So that's good. I just wanted to confirm that. I just think it always looks better because the grass kind of covers some of the tire, and then it doesn't look as aggressive. The other thing I think I like that you said is that get low on the ground, not only to get rid of the lines in the parking lot, but it's such an aggressive shot when you're down low looking up at the car. It's just really, really aggressive. So,
yeah, we call that the worm's eye view. Get down and get that worm's eye shot.
I've never heard that. That's good.
But you're talking about covering the tire. One way it is good to do that, not on grass, but on pavement. And it's a subtle trick. And you have to use like a tripod or sandbags or something to hold the camera still. Is get yourself a piece of paper and bring it up and just cover the bottom of the tire a little bit. And what you'll see is on the finished photo is you'll see that soft edge. It just breaks the tire to pavement contact and gives it a little soft edge.
Ah, that's a really good tip too. I'll have to try that. So we're always constantly photoing Kenny Brown cars that are coming in and out.
Yeah, give them a little bit of an angle too.
Yeah, an angle works well.
Yeah,
so.
A little nose up angle and turn the tires. So the front wheel, instead of being where's the camera?
Yeah, I'll put you full screen.
Being away from you, you turn it so the face of the wheel is facing the camera.
Those are some good points. So, Mark, we're starting to run over time, but I think everybody's really interested in what you have to say. So we're going to run a little late, guys.
Oh, no worries.
Okay, cool. And Dawn's not going to tell you it's time for breakfast and take
No, Dawn actually just left about 10 minutes ago to go get a cup of coffee because our Keurig is on the fritz.
Oh no!
My wife doesn't have her coffee.
It's not a good thing. So
she's on her way to Dunkin' for that pumpkin spice latte. It's that time of year,
That's cool.
And then I think she's going to go visit the grandson, which I am a little jealous about that. So
yes, I know grandchildren are wonderful. So you don't know what it is until you experience it. So it's just wonderful. So who I just have another question for you. Who is your biggest mentor throughout your whole career? Who would you say your one or two mentors that you learned the most from?
Oh, that's an easy one, actually. And I've mentioned him a couple of times already, and that'd be Steve Turner. Steve and I worked together. Let's see, I think the Tampa office closed in 2014. So that's been 8 years. So roughly, I'd say close to 20 years we worked together, and we've been friends for going on 30 years now. I mean, he lives 10 minutes from me. So I actually was hired first on Mustang Monthly, and I want to say it was like maybe a year later they hired him for Super Ford. And we're at the same age. We have the same kind of dark sense of humor and sarcasm. So we really hit it off, always having lunch together at the office and that sort of thing. And we ended up doing a lot of events together. We go to SEMA and we'd share a hotel room, that sort of thing. We both like, heavy metal music, that sort of thing. And it was just a great friendship. We weren't just coworkers, that sort of thing. And I'll never forget the day I had moved on from Mustang Monthly to 50 Mustang. It was that I want to say it was like 99 or 2000 to like 2005, somewhere in there. It was Steve was editor of 50 Mustang and Super Fords. I was the tech editor, and Michael Johnson was staff editor. So the three amigos, we used to joke, and we were in our publisher's office. Steve and I were in our publisher's office one day talking about, we used to do these magazines called SIPs, single issue publications. So we would do, like Muscle Mustangs would do like a Ford truck performance annual, one time a year. Those were the SIPs. And we were in the office talking about the next SIP for 50 Mustang. And Steve was going to have me do the whole book, kind of like hey, I think Mark's ready to, handle this. And Mustang and Ford's magazine, which originally started as Peterson's Mustang and Fords, and I believe they dropped the Peterson. Well, at that point, we had like 4 or 5 Mustang brands, and Mustang and Fords was one of them, and the editor had quit. Donald Farr was juggling Mustang and Fords and Mustang Monthly at the same time, and it was killing him. And our publisher was like, hey, if any of you guys know of anyone interested in the Mustang and Fords editor position, let me know, if you hear of any freelancers or anybody in the industry looking for work. And it blew me away. But Steve turns to me, kind of looks at me, and then he turns back to our publisher and says, as much as I'd hate to lose Mark, here's your guy right here. Because Mustang and Fords, if you weren't familiar with that magazine, it was as the burgeoning resto mods were coming out, that's what Mustang and Fords was about. It was all about Mustangs and Ford powered cars, your Galaxies, Torinos, Fairlanes, Mavericks, all that, with like, Fox Mustang 5-liter pushrod drivetrain swaps, like Heights Mustang 2 front ends, that sort of thing, EFI conversions. So it wasn't the, paint daub and chalk mark Concours restoration Mustang Monthly stuff, which I love, but it was just something different. And it just blew me away that Steve would, be willing to lose his tech editor, to offer me this role as editor of my own title. So, and he became editor in chief on the masthead of Mustang and Fords, and kind of took me under his wing and taught me all the editor duties, which there were a lot that I wasn't aware of, So, to this day, it's always great to see him. I try to have lunch with him once a month. We get together and, talk about the good old days and what we're doing now and that sort of thing. But yeah, he's been one of the biggest influences in my career.
That's awesome. Brad, do you have another question? I know I've been asking so many questions. I don't want to be a question hog.
Yeah, so I do have a couple more questions, but before I ask, I wanted to mention to Mark that our friend Lance from Fox Body FX is joining us today.
How's it going, Lance? He does a great podcast. I've sat in on a couple of his live Instagrams, but yeah, I need to check him out.
Yeah, and so Lance, if you're viewing, you can go ahead and in the comment section, you can put up a link to your website, Instagram page. But Mark and I joined Lance on the Fox Body FX podcast, along with our friend Doug Killian from Lincoln, Nebraska. And we were talking about the early days of Kenny and the short wheelbase T-Birds and the Outlaw Mustangs. And I didn't really know much about Lance or Fox Body FX prior to that. And since I've become a huge fan, I follow him. I like his posts. He does great work. He does a great job at keeping the Fox Body alive and continuing to generate a lot of excitement about it. And I did want to also mention to Lance, if you're listening out there, please reach out to me when you get a chance. We would love to have you as a guest on Cars and Coffee to talk about your podcast and talk about what you do for the Fox Body Mustang community. So you know how to find me, Lance. So just reach out and let's get you scheduled for a show. So
yeah, he's got a barn find Celine SSC. And he just, I hope I'm not letting the cat out of the bag because he did post a photo of it, but he did find like one of the very first Dugan Racing Mustangs built and bought that just the other day. So I think he needs to finish out his trifecta and find himself an old Kenny Brown Outlaw Fox Mustang.
Yeah, well, there's some out there. They pop up for sale every now and then, but they don't last long. That's a Kenny Brown original Outlaw Fox Body Mustang is probably one of the hottest cars to run across on the used car market. They're selling well. They don't last very long when they do come up for sale. So it's really cool to hear that Lance picked up an old Dugan Mustang. So that goes back to the 1990s. Dugan Racing Mustangs were terrors on the drag strip. So it's cool to see that he got one. And when he joins us for Cars and Coffee, maybe he can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I kind of had, back in the day with my Fox, I kind of had, I had the Dugan hood, the Dugan wing on it, but then I had the Kenny Brown suspension. So it was just like, had some unique looks. I've always liked the Dugan hood. Yes, I know it's like a Chevy L88 hood scoop or something molded into the Fox Mustang hood, but with all the other, cowl hoods and everything else out on the market, when you saw that Dugan hood with that bead up the middle, it was just something different. So, I had to have that. And then we did, actually, Cari, you might remember this, I want to say about 2 years after we did the full Kenny Brown suspension on my car, I had somebody turn in front of me and I T-boned them. When we took the car to the body shop said that the strut tower brace essentially prevented full damage. I had some wrinkling of like the inner fender aprons, like where the airbox and the battery is, but from the strut towers back, no damage. The bracing triangulated everything and kept it in place. There was no frame twisting or anything. We had to do 2 front fenders, the front bumper, core support, and the apron where the airbox sits, and that was it. And he put it on the frame machine just to check it, and there was no damage. Because I had the subframe connectors, the lower brace, and then the strut brace on the car.
That's cool. We had just a real quick story. Kenny brought it was a Fox Outlaw XS to Motor Trend. It was supposed to be in Car and Drive. Is that right, Brad? In Car and Driver. He stopped by. No, it was supposed to be the cover of Motor Trend, and he stopped by Car and Driver and had somebody drive it.
Oh, I know this story.
Horrible experience. I mean, they were going on entrance route way too fast.
Yeah, Frank Marcus was the editor at the time. He's not there anymore, so I can say that.
Anyway,
let's just say we know that you've been able to prove the strength of the roll cage.
Yes. Roll cage and the whole suspension. I mean, the engine was they turned it over. I mean, and they went like 100 yards on the roof of the car, and Kenny's hand was between the roll cage and the roof of the car. He had a Mustang ring on his finger, and that's what saved his hands from being crushed. But the whole roll, the Kenny Brown Super Street Cage saved it, and all the I think there are subframes, again, what you had, the strut tower brace, lower chassis brace, and that actually saved the engine. Nothing happened to the engine. It was, the car was total, obviously, but we could take the engine out and use it someplace else. But it was amazing, a testament to how strong that is. If they want to have that roll cage in there, they probably both would have been dead.
Yeah,
So,
we put one of those cages in Steve Turner's Fox Coupe. You remember he had that purple metallic Fox Coupe, the '89, I believe, and we did the same thing, all the bracing, the subframe connectors, and added the cage. And I remember jacking up the from the front torque box area and to the whole side of the car coming up. It was that stiff.
yeah, it's phenomenal. So, Brad, what was your question? So, because I don't want to.
Well, I just wanted to ask Mark, what is his all-time favorite era of Mustangs? So do you have, I know you're into Gen 1s. I know that you're into Fox body. So what really is your favorite, I guess?
That is a tough one. Being that I started in the whole Mustang hobby with a classic Mustang, my cumulative most number of years on a magazine was with Mustang Monthly, even though I was on 5.0, did work on Super Ford, Mustang and Fords and all that, and even now Mustang Hub. And I love the classic Mustangs. They're lacking in a lot of areas these days. So doing a resto mod or pro touring, or even there's companies out there now that do complete reproduction body shells with Coyotes and 10-speed automatics, and out of my price range, but I mean that'd be something that would just, having all that modern power, convenience, backup camera, all that stuff in that classic looking body is just something that I love. It's obviously I love the Fox Mustangs. Like I said, I bought my car brand new. I special ordered it actually, and I've had it 32 years. I've worked on dozens of Fox Mustang projects and shot even more for the magazine. So, and I mean, I love the new cars. We came this close to getting an S550 instead of that Fusion, and we really thought long and hard about it. And it's like, no, we need the 4 doors for the grandson. So, and then recently, with my Fox Mustang being completely rebuilt for Week to Wicked, it's so nice, I don't want to drive it type of thing. You know what I mean? And we toyed again with getting an S550 for me as a daily driver, but my wife and I both work from home, and it would just sit in the driveway, spend $500 a month or something on a car payment for it just to sit there and maybe drive it once a week. So right now we're holding off, but yeah, it's tough. It's a real toss up between first gen, 65, 6 hard tops. I mean, everyone loves a fastback, but I love the hard top. And the Fox Mustangs, being that I've spent so much time around those two, it's a real toss up between them. If I really, really had to pick one, I'd probably say a first gen Mustang, obviously modified. It could either be, factory correct looking, but with hidden mods, or slap a Coyote in it and a 6-speed manual and, IRS and big brakes and wheels and just, have a blast with it.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because the first Outlaw tribute car that we are building is going to be a Fox body. And Kenny, he was asked the question, if you were going to build an Outlaw Mustang based on a Fox body today, how would you do it? And I'm so happy that he did that video, because we were able to go back and review that a few times, a couple of different videos to document what Kenny actually would do. And so we've got a Fox body that is coming in here pretty soon, I believe. And while that car is not going to get a Coyote engine, he is going to get one of the Ford Performance crate motors. I believe it's the 363, and then we're going to put a T56 Magnum behind that, and that car is going to have the complete Kenny Brown AGS, what we call 4.0, I guess, or 3.5 front suspension, so K-member control arms, the full ball of wax. It's going to have a street cage in it. It's going to have all the underpinnings. And it is going to have an IRS rear suspension. So
awesome.
And
that 363
is
is a stout piece. We did a 65 or 66 Mustang hardtop SEMA project in 2017. If you came around the Motor Trend booth and saw a competition orange 66 Mustang coupe or hardtop, that had the 363 from Ford Racing in it. And I mean, that thing makes 500 horsepower, at the flywheel, out of the crate before you add a blower, turbo, nitrous, whatever you want to go crazy with. So, I mean, as we know, 500 horsepower in a Fox I mean, there's people out there with a lot more, but 500 in a Fox is just like a great fun ride. I mean, some people might call it a starting point, but my car right now has a Ford Racing 306 in it, the regular Boss block, not the Stroker 363, but we put a Vortec on it for that old school build look and feel. So it's got roughly the same horsepower as that 363, and it's a blast.
Yeah, cool. We actually had someone left a comment. They said, "Hey, Mark, I've always wanted to put a 460 cubic inch Ford engine in a Fox body. What do you think about that?"
That was a really big thing in the 80s. Before stroker engines became popular and financially viable. I mean, early stroker engines were very expensive because you were doing offset ground crankshafts and, special forged pistons had to be, made and everything. Now you can call up, SCAT or any number of companies and, here's your custom crank that's, cast and machined just for a 331 or 347 and the rods and pistons all in a box for, $800-900. I mean, I always tell people if you're rebuilding a 302, it's not that much more expensive to just, if you need a crank anyways, crank and rods anyways, just get the stroker kit, But back in the day, the 460 kits were the oil pan, motor mounts, headers were really popular. There's so many ways to make, X number of horsepower, whether it's, a small block with a turbo or a Coyote with a blower on it. There's nothing like displacement and the torque that it puts out. It's not going to be cheap, just like comparing a small block Chevy to a small block Ford when it comes to, build dollars. Building a big block these days, or even like an FE, versus like a 460, 385 series block. The parts are more expensive, that type of thing. But once you get it in there and turn the key, man, you better have a whole bunch of Kenny Brown chassis support on that because it's going to twist the car. I mean, those things make mountains of torque, and they're great for like burnout contests,
Well, I'm just going to take a little break here because we are going late, which is wonderful. You're just sharing so much great information, Mark. Yeah, can you talk for a couple more minutes, or?
Oh yeah, I'm fine. I just wish I had the fancy, virtual backgrounds like you do.
Well, I'm at my mother's right now, so that's why I have a virtual background, because you would see a big picture of me at 3 years old painted on the wall, in a big frame. That was the era back then. So I have a little Kenny Brown car up instead. But I just wanted to share, Brad, will you put in the comments again that we're having a workshop coming up on Kenny's new innovative K-Link rear suspension module. It's worth a view. It's right now it's fitting the S197s, so the 05 to 14 Mustangs, but we are in development for Fox and SN95 Mustangs. So if you're interested in improving the handling of your car, and if you're a track person, improving your lap times, I highly recommend that you register for this workshop. It is August 20th, which is a Tuesday night. It's a 2-hour workshop. If you register and if you cannot make that night, make sure you register, because you will be sent a link to the workshop so you can watch it after the fact. It's well worth it. It's just people are saving, and Brad, I think you got a couple testimonies we'll be sharing during the workshop, up to 11 seconds from stock suspension. And that is incredible, to save 11 seconds per lap from stock suspension to the full Kenny Brown 4.5 suspension, including the K-Link. People are saving anywhere from 4 to, like I said, 11 seconds, depending on how their car was set up, what track they're on. But even 4 seconds is phenomenal. So definitely watch that. Even if you're just curious, it's a great workshop to attend. Now, if you have any questions for Mark, this is the time to post them and give us some thumbs up. And it looks like we still have people hanging on with us. Again, we are simulcasting live on Kenny Brown Performance, the Kenny Brown Speed Therapy Society Facebook page, as well as the Kenny's YouTube channel, Kenny Brown Performance TV. So you can watch on any of those and subscribe so you get notifications that you can watch these Cars and Coffee. Okay, Mark, I have a question for you. I have 2 questions for you. So what are your thoughts of where the Mustang is going in the 650 S650 platform?
Well, we're all gonna see, it debut here in just a few days on the 14th. There's a lot of clickbait out there right now with, S650, sneak peek or teaser shot. And a lot of it's, digital manipulation of a S550. I'm not as privy to, obviously anytime you talk to Ford, we cannot comment on future product. That's their official line. But obviously little things make their way out here and there, and I'm not as close to it as I used to be. Our good friend Evan Smith probably knows a little bit more than the rest of us, but obviously he doesn't want to risk his relationships and say anything. So we're all gonna, see what happens when the wraps come off next. Is it Wednesday? I believe the 14th. Yes, next Wednesday. So anyways, but as far as what to expect, obviously they've teased, that it's got a manual transmission in it, which is great. My speculation is same drivetrains as the 550 right now, an EcoBoost base car with a Coyote GT option with some sort of like performance package, again, performance pack. I don't know if they'll have different levels like the earlier cars, but probably a small bump in power. The Gen 3 Coyotes with the DI on them and everything has been a phenomenal package. And, I think they obviously for emissions and drivability and maybe even liability concerns, they're leaving something on the table there. So, they may be able to squeeze out another 20 horsepower and the lawyers will sign off on it, something like that. So I'm thinking we're probably going to see like 480, 490. I don't think they'll crack 500. I'd love to see that, but I honestly don't think we'll see that out of the factory. Still a great car. Obviously now with the handling that the car has and IRS and the big brake packages, it's really going to be tough to, market a rear-wheel drive performance coupe at a certain price point and not go over that without making, huge strides in performance upgrades. You look at any time they add to it, such as the Mach 1, or, maybe they'll bring back the Boss or some other, classic nameplate, just like the GT350 package, or even let's look at the top tier GT500. Anytime you go with more power, more brakes, more technology, obviously the sticker goes up. So, if we're going to market a, high $30,000 to low $40,000 performance coupe, obviously there's going to be some limitations. So I'm seeing, minor tweaks here and there to the drivetrain and brakes. I'm thinking it's going to be more or less aesthetics, new wheel packages, some sharpening of the body, kind of like when the SN95 went to the new Edge, not that not that the S550 is a soft body design to begin with, but I think there's going to be some more angularity to the grille and lower air ducts and that sort of thing. Now, as far as like where the car is going to go after that, I mean, that's a tough one. As we all know, everybody's, throwing their cards down on the table for, either hybrids or full, BEVs, battery electric vehicles. Look at what California is doing and several other states as far as, no more gas vehicle, ICE engine sales and that sort of thing. I'm not against hybrids or battery electric vehicles at all. I think if you're kind of like owning a lease or having a lease vehicle versus owning a car, if it works for you, if it's right for your situation, go for it. But I just don't think we have the infrastructure to handle. I mean, look what they're doing now. California. Hey, I know you got that Tesla or that Mach-E, but would you do me a big favor and don't charge it tonight? Until we can get that solved, why as efficient as we can make our, you've got the EcoBoost line from Ford and all the other manufacturers have their little 4-cylinder, 3-cylinder turbocharged applications. You got little cars out there making 30, 40 miles per gallon. Why not keep selling those? Why put those on the shelf and force hybrids and BEVs on people? And the expense of that battery down the road and that sort of thing. I would have loved to have a little Focus ST or a Fiesta ST as a daily driver. They're great, fun little cars. But Ford stopped selling them. And now they're getting ready to stop selling the Fusion. So what's left? You've got, crossovers and SUVs. I mean, the Explorer is a great car. My daughter had one, and now she's in a Expedition. And my son-in-law's got a Super Duty. So, big trucks, big SUVs. It's either that or the Mustang. So I don't see the Mustang going away. I think with the Mach-E, and I know that's very polarizing as well. I think the Mach-E's got a place, and the people that buy them are loving them. So my one thought there is with the Mach-E doing well, even though the price just went up, doing well, and the owners are happy with them. I think what that's going to do is that's going to save our traditional Mustang from being converted into a full battery electric vehicle. There may be a hybrid down the road, and again, if you need, you just have commuter type needs, but you love the Mustang, so you want to get a Mustang as a commuter car, then maybe the hybrid model, whenever it comes out, if it comes out, will be for you too. I don't see it completely going away, and that's just me. Just like, the Corvette is the halo for General Motors. The Mustang means a lot to Ford. I mean, you talk to anybody at Ford, and there's a lot of passion and history behind the Mustang nameplate. And we can talk about the probe and the Mustang almost going away. I think Ford learned their lesson there, and I don't see that happening again. The Mustang is going to be around for a long time.
Good points. So we have a couple of comments in here that I wanted to read. First of all, Jorge says that he is a subscriber to Mustang Hub when we were talking about Mustang Hub.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. And he found out about it on Kenny Brown Performance. So, I'm listening to Cars and Coffee, but yeah. And he's saying it's just a great high quality print magazine. So thank you for commenting on that. Rory says, what does he say here? Wasn't Kenny going to do SVO Fox? Brad, do you know anything about that?
Michael has an SVO Fox body car that he wanted to do something to, and I know that he had spoken to Kenny about that as well. Michael Kiley, he's up in, I think, the Green Bay area. And Michael owns like the Aviator and the Lounge Lizard, and he has M69, and he also has Mango Tango. So I think he has a nice little collection of of Kenny Brown cars, but he did pick up a nice clean SVO Mustang, and I know that he was kind of itching to do something with that. So I think if we did do that car, that would be. Kenny was a big fan of putting the IRS in the Fox body cars. This is pre K-Link theory on putting it in the Fox and the SN95, but you just can't beat a Fox body Mustang with an IRS in it, or in Rory's case, a Capri, or what we call a Capri, I guess. And I also wanted to mention too that we have John Nichols who's joining us today, and John is an old friend of yours as well, Mark, and so he's one of the people that manages Mustang Enthusiast, which is another great resource for Mustang owners. I follow Mustang Enthusiast religiously and have for years, and John has always been an avid supporter of Kenny Brown and our whole team, and he's a great guy. We think the world of him, and I'm so happy to see that he's still kicking around in the Mustang aftermarket. So
John, I'm sorry to interrupt, but John, if you want to put a link in there to Mustang Enthusiasts, that would be great. If you're still with us, just put a link to your pub and we will promote it.
Yeah, John and I go way back to the old Lakeland office days. As one of our great ad reps. He really has a way with people, great personality, always has a smile on his face, and is a great salesman. We've all dealt with what I call pushy Pete. That just won't let things go. John was never like that, and from a content or from the writing side, it was always great to work with him. Over the years with Mustang Enthusiast and Mustang Driver and doing stuff for like Mustang Week and things like that. He's always right in the thick of it. You go to Mustang Week or go to Carlisle Ford Nationals, he's there.
Mm-hmm. It's always good to go to those events. It's like Old Friend Week or something, Old Home Week. We have another question in here, and then we're probably going to be ending this because, wow, we've gone an hour and a half. I think this is the longest show we've done, Mark. So, Anthony.
Well, I'm known for my extended verbiage, I guess you could politely put it.
So many more stories that I'd love to hear about too. I don't think we even got onto all the stories you have to share about your life in public, magazines. Antonio says, "What is the most power you can get out of a 2.3 turbo for Fox body Sting?"
Well, it all depends on how much money you want to spend. The 2.3 4-cylinder that's the base engine. I want to say it's started at like 88 horsepower and then got up to like 110 or 120 or something like that. Just like a V8, it's an air pump. It's all about getting air in and out. So, having the cylinder head ported, higher lift cam, better exhaust, all that stuff will help. But you have to realize with an inline 4, it's basically half of a V8. So, if you do head porting on a V8, put a cam in it, put headers on it, and gain 40, 50 horsepower, on a 4-cylinder, you're going to gain half that. Theoretically, I'm not an engine builder, but generally you're going to maybe make another 20 or so. Honestly, the best way to make power on the 2.3 is to add a turbo to it. There are plenty of great 4-cylinder performance companies out there like Racer Walsh, Esslinger, people like that, they've had decades of experience building the 2.3 for, circle track racers and that sort of thing, and being able to do, custom valve train and cams and turbo kits and that sort of thing. And just like the inline 6 guys in the vintage market, it's always going to be cheaper to do a V8 swap, but it's just cool and interesting. If you are ready to spend the extra money, it's not going to be cheap, but if you're ready to spend the extra money to be different, It's cool. Adding a turbo, doing a turbo spec cam, full flow exhaust, all that. I mean, there's 2.3s out there turbocharged that are making 500 horsepower. You lose a little drivability because it's only 4 cylinders, but I mean you can make some decent V8 power out there with the right parts.
Thank you. That was a good answer. So we're going to be ending the show. Mark, is there anything you would like to add in a conclusion?
Just want to say thanks so much for having me. I know we went back and forth with scheduling a little bit. So many irons in the fire besides my day job and my work on Mustang Hub, which basically is evenings and weekends. I do a little bit of additional freelancing in the firearms and radio control car industry. So I've got a lot of content projects going back and forth, and working on some home renovation stuff and trying to get my 66 Mustang back on the road. Just put new tires on it the other day, and it's been raining so much here in Florida, I haven't been able to get it down to the gas station to put gas in it. So just a lot going on, but I'm glad we were able to finally connect, and I had a blast telling these stories and reminiscing, and I'm sure like everyone else, really missed chatting with Kenny and talking cars and cutting up.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mark. We truly appreciate you being on, and I think we may have to have you on again to tell more stories that we didn't even get to. So it's amazing how fast an hour and a half can go when you're really intrigued with what you're hearing. We have a lot of people here saying, thank you, Mark. Great job, everyone.
Thank you.
Just tons of people saying that. Thanks, Mark, from Antonio. Just really appreciative of what you're doing. Brad, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't have anything to add.
It's kind of interesting. Both Brad and I have a gift gab, and sometimes he takes a majority of the show and sometimes I do. So we're still trying to get an equal balance here. So I guess, Brad, next show's yours, and it's on tire tech. So I'll let you take that one.
Okay. Yeah. They call me the tire doctor. I guess I got that name honestly, but that goes back to my years of work with Pirelli on pit lane, and they would always stick me with the German teams, and so I was always working on Porsches basically, or working with Porsches. But man, I tell you what, I learned a lot, and so now they call me the tire doctor, because if anybody has a tire question, regardless of what it is, I'm usually the guy they call on. So
yeah, I think Brad could probably do a tire tech session on Cars and Coffee all by himself, but we're pulling in a tire expert from Tire Rack we're going to be interviewing him, and he'll be sharing some information as well.
Yeah, so a lot of people think that, tire, it's black and round and holds air, and there's just so much more, especially in a performance environment. Mm-hmm. I've seen people that had, 14-inch 6-piston brakes, and they're wondering why their car won't stop because the tire is only this wide. When you understand the correlation of contact patch, that's also what helps brake the car, not just the size of your rotor.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, thank you again, Mark, for sharing all this information. And this is going down in the Guinness World Record. It's our longest show, 1 hour and 38 minutes.
I was going to say, I'm sure Steve Turner will not be surprised at that.
His show went long as well.
It's always like when we're in a group and someone asks a question, Steve's usually behind me going, no, don't ask him. We don't have the time.
But you're really interesting. So it was a joy to have you on. Brad, do you have anything else? Otherwise, we're going to sign off and say goodbye.
Nope. I just want to thank everybody for joining us today, and don't forget to give us a like and a subscribe on YouTube or on Facebook if that's where you're viewing. And I hope that I see everybody for the K-Link workshop, which is coming up in 10 days.
Well, so we'll see you then. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Right, thanks again.